So why should you stop uploading consistently? Because the norm of what you hear from a lot of YouTube gurus or just people who are trying to teach you how to do YouTube is that you've got to post consistently. And while that could be true in a lot of senses, they're talking from a perspective where they have found that to work for them. Whereas I've spoken from a perspective where you don't have to post consistently if that's something you can't or don't want to do. Now, those two situations will obviously determine whether you do or don't, but over the 10 years of doing YouTube and generating over just 35 or 36 million views in just the last 2 years, I've been able to do this without posting consistently and still having videos go viral with 3 or 4 million views per video. And so how do I do this? I'm going to show you how to do a lot of these, but the problem is that there's a lot of misunderstandings that people have when it comes to YouTube. They have a lot of general statements that think they can apply to anything in YouTube. And so I'm going to kind of break a few of those YouTube myths. Now, busting YouTube myths is pretty straightforward and something that I think is extremely important, specifically if you want to get successful on YouTube. So let's kind of break down what this is going to look like for you and some of the myths that you probably have believed on or believed in. And number 4 or number 5 is actually probably going to surprise you. So let's go with the first one, posting consistently, right? So why should you post consistently and why shouldn't you? Now, there's going to be some examples where you should post consistently. For example, let's say your channel is a news channel. Maybe it's something that is, you've got to be on top of the topic. For example, if you're in gaming and there's a particular gaming channel that you're posting about, you've got to jump on some of the new news stuff. So sometimes you're going to have to post consistently, whether it's news, tutorial content, entertainment content. You've got a lot of options in terms of what you post, but you've also got to stay on top of the new stuff. So yes, you're going to have to post consistently in that example. But what are some examples where you don't have to post consistently? Well, there are some where even you can do 2 options really, but you don't have to. So there's documentary channels that do really well in terms of views. If you hit the niche right and you actually get the numbers in terms of views, you can get very successful with that. But there's some channels that generate thousands and thousands of dollars per month, and they post maybe 1 video per month, maybe. It's probably more like 1 video every 2 months. Let Me Know is a fantastic example of what it looks like to post inconsistently and be able to get results. So if I go to YouTube here and I'll show you, Let Me Know doesn't post very consistently, but he still generates millions of views. So I'll just click on videos here. His last video was 7 months ago. Before that, a year. Before that, a year. 2 years. He gets millions of views off of these. So he hits the niche very well. He's also got a really loyal audience. But if you just take a look at what he's generating in terms of revenue per month, $17,000, and he's posted 7 months ago. So there are some examples where you don't have to post consistently, even though on this channel, I'm doing a daily challenge for as long as I can. You know, I'm posting daily source every day. So, you know, subscribe if you actually want to, you know, stay in touch with that. But in terms of not having to post consistently, you can do that and can still work. It's harder to be successful at it, but it's still possible. And it's something that a lot of people say you have to do in order to be successful. Clearly not. But then there's more examples than this. I've had channels that are faceless and I haven't posted consistently, and they've gotten great results and great success, generating millions of views. And so that's something that you've got to watch out for in terms of these myths. And you've got to be careful of believing these when really it's just a general statement that doesn't always have to apply. Number 2, don't post or don't put too many ads in your videos. This is one that I think people are starting to push back on now, but over the last few years of doing YouTube specifically targeting ads properly and using them properly, it really doesn't matter how many ads you put in. You can put in every 10 seconds. It just doesn't mean YouTube's going to play an ad there. This is the important part. People think that because you place an ad there, YouTube's going to play an ad. That's not how it works. The way ads work is when you place an ad, let's say every 30 seconds, it just gives YouTube the permission to play an ad at that spot where you designated it. Doesn't mean YouTube's going to play it, because ultimately YouTube knows your audience and they know their ad tolerance. So if that person's not going to watch or stick around after that ad, they're probably not going to play it. Or if they know that they've just played an ad a minute ago, they're not going to play another ad 30 seconds later or a minute later. So That's something you've got to keep in mind. YouTube knows your audience better than anyone. They know it better than your audience. They know your video better than they know your video. I do have a video talking more about ads and what that looks like and how you should use them. Extensions that you can use to just automatically put ads every 30 seconds. Why should you do this? For the obvious reason, you increase your RPM on those videos, you get more revenue. The more ads that show up, the more you make. But then again, like I mentioned, YouTube's not always going to play all of those ads. It's just going to increase your chances of increasing your RPM, which means the less, or you're making more money per view or per 1,000 views, as opposed to if you had less ads, you're not making quite as much. Number 3 is going to be probably one of the most annoying misconceptions when it comes to YouTube myths that people believe. And it's, you need high production quality. And this could be anything: high production value, quality. I have to have a good camera, good editing, things like that. I mean, these videos are not being edited. I'm just going to give you an example. Now, my target demographic is very different. So this video isn't probably even going to break 1,000 views. That's not the point here. The point is, for someone to be interested in watching your video, it doesn't have to have high production quality. Even though, yes, mine does. I have videos and channels that don't, and they generate millions of views. And so what you got to understand is there is one exception to this in almost every situation, and that's your microphone. You've got to have good audio, otherwise your audience isn't going to stick around to watch your video. Now, whether that's documentary, whatever it might be. So for example, let's take the crime niche. There's not always going to be good video or audio quality. People don't care that the video quality is going to be 360p or just terrible. Maybe it's even laggy and glitchy for a short time because you're showing security footage. People don't care as long as the audio is good. Now, there are going to be situations where the audio isn't good. So you could use AI to supplement that. You could use voiceover to supplement that. Or people don't mind that audio is bad for 10, 15 seconds. Maybe you have captions on there to help fill in the gaps if you need to. But that's obviously something you got to watch out for, is you don't have that bad audio quality throughout the entire video, because that's going to be a problem. But if it's short snippets, or you do ways to help the audience understand what's going on, that's totally fine. So your audio quality is an exception to this myth, but you don't need high video quality. You don't need, like Mr. Beast uses 1080p webcams or GoPros and cameras, and people don't care. It's because of the authenticity that he's giving with that. And so you don't need fantastic video quality or crazy editing skills. There's videos out there that have generated hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views of just talking straight to the camera. I've done that with some of my clients too. Some videos have gotten 300,000 views where they're just talking straight to the camera, maybe showing their screen occasionally. Other than that, there's no really any crazy editing, and it works out great for them, and they make fantastic revenue. They get clients out of that. So, I mean, it's really a no-brainer. Number 4, you need high effort to go viral. So a lot of people think that high effort and high value are the same things, or high production value. Those aren't the same thing. So high effort is obviously you're putting a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of detailed information into creating your videos, whereas really, you don't need all of that. This video took me about 10 minutes to prepare, if that. It's going to take me however long it takes me to record. And then I use AI to cut out the dead spaces in between, or the awkward pauses, and it's good to go. I'm going to post it. So you don't need high effort. Sometimes you do, like depending on the niche. Like, again, you've got to be careful of general statements or just rules that you got to understand the rules, that you know when to break them. So for example, high effort content might actually be helpful in order for your video to go viral, because maybe that's the missing piece in your niche so that you can actually go viral, right? So for example, in the Valorant niche, there's just a lot of clips and cool plays, which is awesome. And then on the other side of that, there's the long 2-hour live streams or VODs from some of the pro Valorant matches, but there isn't anything in between. And so Aaron, I've spoken about him in the past. He's done breakdowns of these pro matches, and the videos maybe are 30-ish, 40 minutes at most. He breaks down the plays. It's very high effort, high production value. That is how we had to stand out in the niche. And so there are going to be exceptions to this, but people treat This number 4, you need high effort to go viral, as a blanket statement, a general thing where you have to or else you fail, right? So that's one of the issues that I've seen people have. Number 5 is the niche is too saturated. You might actually be surprised by this. Let's just say we're talking about, I don't know, let's take the example of the crime niche again. So for example, there's so much of that content out there right now on YouTube. So many new channels showing up in the crime niche, and you're like, how do I break into this? I'm just going to be posting the same content. It's going to look the same. Like, how do I stand out? How do I break into this niche in the first place? Because YouTube's going to favor the existing channels over my channel. How do I be different? There is no such thing as a too saturated niche, with an exception. I mean, there are going to be times where it's not a good idea to break into that niche because of what's happening in the niche, or probably more importantly, what's not happening in the niche. But there's always going to be an opportunity where you can jump onto it. It's just about timing. So what I did in the niches, in some specific niches, was I had to do high effort and high production, not production value, but high effort content, because that was the gap in a niche that I broke into, and it was also saturated. But this is how I was going to be able to stand out. And that's how I was able to generate millions of views in the first month and get monetized in 2 weeks. Missed out on $10,000 because the channel wasn't even monetized at that time, and YouTube takes 2 weeks to verify the watch time and the hours and all that stuff. So, you know, I missed out on $10,000 on that first 2 weeks of that channel being created. So I was able to find a niche, find a gap, broke into that niche even though it was very saturated. I was able to find things to address in the market that they were starving for. My audience needed a particular type of content, and it was kind of a sub niche, so I niched down. That's how I broke into it. Now I'm starting to broaden my scope and make my videos a little bit more general so I can address a larger audience. But that's kind of how it worked and how I was able to do that. So if this is something that you actually want to learn how to do, I teach you how to do it in my free 7 days of coaching. Link is down below in the description. You learn how to satisfy your audience through audience retention, get higher retention curves, get your audience through the video so that they don't leave in the first 30 seconds. I get them to the end of the video. About 66% of people do that. Fantastic view graph, nice and flat, which is what you want. I teach people how to do that. 7 days of free coaching in the description below. At least it's free for now. Hopefully it's still free by the time you see this. Check it out, sign up, and you can get 7 days of that. Lots of really good goodies in there. If you want to see more of this type of stuff, subscribe and stick around. And also, if you want to learn how to make better thumbnails, because it's going to be super important and key so that you can understand how to not just get the click, but set the correct expectations for your video so you get better retention curves. Click on the video over here before it disappears. It's going to show you how to optimize your thumbnails and essentially have your audience watch to the end of the video, because your thumbnail is more than